Sup peoples, and welcome back to another, I have to sneeze. Let's try that again. Sup peoples, and welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to talk about comic book scripts. Now, I didn't really have too much information on this when I first became interested in comic book writing, and I honestly never would have become a comic book writer if Brian K. Vaughan, the man who inspired me to start writing comics in the first place, hadn't have put the script and comic book process in the back of one of these saga volumes. I know that not everyone is going to luck out that much, so I decided that I would show you an example of my script, walk you through some of the terminology, some of the things you have to keep in mind when you're writing a comic book, and hopefully give you the information that you need. I'm just going to show you an example of something I'm working on right now. It's not fully finished, but it gives you a good enough example of what a comic book script page would look like, at least based on my style, which is based on Brian Vaughan's style, which is based on probably whoever inspired him to start writing. And that would be this. I don't know if you can see this very well, but hopefully you can. So at the top, I just write whatever the page number is. Then it would say panel number, the description, and then whatever text is going to be on it. And that text would be numbered in the order that you wanted it to be read. So if this page is very simple, there's only one line of dialogue or narration in this case per panel. However, if there were, say, two characters talking in the scene, one would be numbered 1 and one would be numbered 2. And that way you know what order the text is supposed to be read in. And then it would reset on the next page, which I haven't actually finished writing up. What is a panel, you might be asking? A panel is one of those singular boxes with an image from a comic book. I will probably put an example of a page with a panel up somewhere on the screen. Actually, I'm just going to go find a comic book real quick. So this was the first comic book that I could find because everything's being cleaned out of my room right now because we're redoing it. Now, I don't want to give any major spoilers for this series because I still want you to obviously read this if you're interested, and I'm not going to like totally spoil it. But you see how there's this page. This would be one panel because, you know, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels on this page. And when thinking about that, you should also think about the fact that this dialogue would have been labeled 1. This would have been labeled 2. This would have been labeled 3, 4, 5, and so on. Good book. I actually never bought the rest, but if you're looking for superhero comics, I definitely want to check out more of them in the future. I really liked it. I don't know why I never got the others. I don't know. I think because I decided I wasn't the type of person who would read superhero comics, and I'm like, they're good though. If you have any good comics for like superhero comic recommendations, let me know down below. I think I might want to check out Spider-Man. So if there's any issues of that you feel like would be good, let me know. Back on topic. So that would be a panel. Now, another term that you should get used to is the splash. Now, a splash, I'm not going to track down an example of this, but it's a single solid page, no panels. It's just one page, one image. And they're usually used to like cement an idea or to just have a big impact. A semi-splash is, I believe, a large image, but there are like 1 or 2 other panels on the page, but it's usually a fairly large image. So a splash is just a really big full page image, and a semi-splash is most of a page. When using things like this, how I was talking about how a splash or a semi-splash can be used to really give gravity to a moment, you should also think about surprises. The way a comic is set up, the moment you open a page, you're going to see both pages. But then when you turn the page, this side, this page here, has a chance to surprise you because you didn't see it. So I think there was a rule for this that I have. The first page and the last page of a comic can always be a surprise, as well as, I believe, even numbered pages can also be surprises because you're going to be turning to see that page, if that makes sense. So I think that really making use of this can, 1, show publishers that you know the comic book medium, and 2, just have an awesome impact for your readers. Imagine if you opened a page and the death of a character was on this side and you just saw it automatically, but you still had to read this page first. There's something off about that. You're like, you know they die, so you're just sort of like skimming this because you're like, wait, they're dying, they die. But imagine if you read the page, then you turn and you're like, they've been stabbed. There's this moment of, you know, because you couldn't have seen it coming. It's on the other page. So you should try and take that into account, because in a novel or something that's purely written with no art, they're not going to know until they actually read the words. But with something with imagery like a comic book, they're going to know the moment they open that page. So really be careful about using surprises and using them well. Now, another thing, this is all for monthly comics, but a lot of it can also apply to graphic novels. This next bit can't really though, which is page count. Now, I didn't actually pay any attention to this until I read something with Brian Vaughn talking about it, and then I started counting how many pages were in every one of my comics just to see what the average was. And it seems like the average is usually between 20 and 22. Apparently, older comics were 22 pages and newer comics are 20 pages. I personally flip-flop between which one I want to go with for my monthly comic. Was initially leaning towards 20 pages, but have been recently finding that I need a little bit more space to get everything done, so I've been writing 22 pages. I don't think it especially matters as long as it's in that sort of ballpark. And some comics are even longer, so it really does vary, but you have to think about how long it would take an artist to illustrate it, and having something that's maybe more the industry standard for your first time might be more appealing to publishers. I'm assuming, I don't really know, but as I work on publishing my comic, I will keep you up to date on all the things that did and didn't work, but I'm just trying to sort of take what I assume and what I know for a fact, mesh it all together, and hope it works out in my favor. I will put some images up on the screen for a little bit with more words and also an example of script format. Hopefully this will help. I have some of these posts on my Instagram for a little while ago when I actually did some major research instead of just sitting down and rambling at people, and I will put them up on the screen for you to peruse. I think that really having an understanding of the comic book format can help you stand out. It can also just make it better, you know? It's not like writing a novel. Writing a novel has its own challenges. While this is not better or worse than a novel, it's going to have its own issues and its own skills you have to master, including not making the page too crowded and making sure that all of the dialogue fits without filling up the whole page and taking over the image. It's just going to be little things you have to practice and learn. And the most important thing is just to find other comic books that you love, other comic book writers that you love, and study their stories. It wasn't until I started writing comic books that I really started loving comic books, because now I can notice when a writer is doing something really well, and then I can try and learn from them. I don't view stories the way I used to. I study them now. I love them. I appreciate them for what they are because I've always loved stories. But when I was little, or even just a couple years ago, I wouldn't have wanted to watch half the shows that I love now. And that's because I couldn't appreciate them the way that I do now. I can watch a show now that's about something that doesn't interest me at all, but it's just beautifully written, and I can appreciate that, and I can see what's well written about it most of the time, and I can apply that to my own work. And I think that that's really what's going to set you apart from other people, is learning to study writing and film and comic books and all these different mediums, because a story is a story at the end of the day, and if you can get your story across well and you can master your chosen medium, then you're doing great. That's so impressive. I actually have a challenge running on my channel right now, which I dubbed the Write a Novel in 60 Days challenge. But I discovered that I don't like writing novels as much as I like writing comic books. I still enjoy it, but as a hobby, as a once in a while thing, not like I really want to show them to the world. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to be pivoting with my Write a Novel in 60 Days challenge. I'm not giving up, because I don't think you should ever give up. My first comic book that I ever wrote, I will not be reading to you all because I'm actually going to redo it and do it justice this time. But it was based on a game that I played with Littlest Pet Shops when I was 6 and 7. I adapted it to be something new. Anyway, I'm rambling, and hopefully this will be saved in editing, and I may have to film parts later so that it actually makes sense, and yada 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 yada. Bye.